Hey guys, I'm about to start my Hexacopter build, my brushed Hexacopter build here, and I've done a little bit of work here. I'll talk about that in a second. I got all my parts here. I got my 6 Spintech motors, and I'm going to be using the tiny QX90 camera. It's like a spare part camera, and I'll have a review about this one a little bit later. Look for a video about that, but not going to talk about that today. And this is a pretty thin frame. I think it's 1 millimeter. Uh, pretty flexible, so we'll have to see how it holds up to crashes and stuff. The flight controller is just going to go back here, and I'll put the camera over there. But I've done like all of the soldering work on the flight controller already. Just wanted to show you what's going on here because the rest of it is just basically plugging in stuff and assembling it, and there's really not much to this build. So talk about what's going on with the flight controller. I've got my 6 motor connectors here, and they'll use the corresponding connectors on the motors over here and the motor wires. I put on my connector here for the FPV, that's right here, and we'll go to the camera right here. This goes to the battery. It's just a micro low-C connector. I already soldered on my receiver. It's right there on UART2. And all I gotta do is, when I power it on, just bind it. And this is the same receiver that comes with the QX90. It's also a spare part, and I'll put all the links to these parts in the description as always. So at this point, I just gotta get some sticky foam tape, mount my flight controller here, and there's a gotta plug in my motors, obviously, stick my motors in, plug in my FPV camera in the front there, and then put this little top on there, and then configure and fly it. So I'll put all this together and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the motors all mounted and plugged in. Got these little standoffs in place, and got the flight controller mounted as well. See, that's the underside right there. Yeah, well, just about done here. Gonna put the camera on. Gonna put the top on. Plug it in. Plug in the camera, and not sure if I'm gonna run the battery in top or underneath. I haven't decided yet, so figure that out, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, so here it is, all completed with the props on, and I wanted to use these 65mm gem fans, but they were actually end up being too big for this frame, and over here on this side they would be rubbing against each other. So I had to take those off, and I ended up putting the Ladybird propellers on instead. And the other problem that I ran into was the motor connections and the arrangement of the motors on the board versus what's in CleanFlight. And I think I'll just show you the board on the web page here. Let me see if I can. Here we go. So this is the back of the board. That's the front of the board there. The motors in CleanFlight are going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4 for a quadcopter, and for Hexacopter 5 and 6 are reversed. So in CleanFlight, motor 6 is supposed to be over here, and motor 5 is supposed to be over here. And really, all you need to do is you just put, even though it says it's motor 6 here, motor 6 goes over here on the other side, and you just run the wire over to the other side. I decided to just leave the connections in there. I could have just stretched it out and ran it over, and I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to make it, so I actually decided to do a custom motor mix. And let me just show you what it actually is supposed to look like in CleanFlight. So it's supposed to be like that. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 5 is over here on the right side, and on the board 5 is on the left side. So when I plugged in I had all the propellers and everything in the right spots and everything, and I powered it up and I armed it, and I tried to hover it and it flipped over right away. It's because these two are reversed. So you can either try and stretch to the motor wire over. And if you have a longer motor wire and you're just soldering directly, it's going to be easier because you just basically go across the board to the other side. That's all you got to do, and then you're good. But if your motor wires are short, or if, in my case, I wasn't sure if it was going to be long enough or not, I decided to leave it there, and I made a custom motor mix. And I'll put that motor mix in the description. You'll have to, if you want to do it the way I did, you have to go into the CLI and enter each line, or actually copy paste the whole thing into the CLI and hit save, and then the motor mix will be correct. So that's something to be aware of. I thought it was going to be super simple, but it turned out to be a little more complicated than that because they decided to play tricks on us and reverse the motor locations for the Hexacopter. It's supposed to be like that. Anyway, so let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments section. I'm sure there'll be plenty. This is a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. If you just plug in the motor 6 over here to the other side, you're going to be fine. If you end up putting it where I did on the left side, where it's incorrect because that the board thinks that that's motor 5, then you're going to have problems. It'll flip over when you try to take off. Anyway, I'll get some flight video of this up pretty soon. I did a quick hover and it flew just fine. It was really stable and had plenty of power even on these little 55mm Ladybird props. So I'm looking forward to flying this. I'll have some video pretty soon. Let me know if you got questions below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.